Welcome to Pulp Mortem, the search for a lost literary classic from the Pulp era. Hello, everybody. Question: what happens when the smartest man in the room decides to write science fiction? Yes, I am talking about myself. But first, obviously, let's talk about the author. Harry Clement Stubbs, or Hal Clement, was an American science fiction author, artist, and science teacher born May 30th, 1922, and he died in 2003 at the age of 81. Hal went to Harvard and basically said, "No, I'll take one of everything." He had a bachelor's in astronomy, master's in chemistry, and master's of education. While working on his first degree, his first short story was accepted into Astounding Science Fiction in 1942. In between degrees, he served in World War II as a pilot, flying 35 bomber missions, started his career as a science teacher, and continued writing. While consistent with novels and short stories, he's written more essays than both combined. Clement won a Hugo, was inducted into the Science Fiction Hall of Fame in 1998, and was given the SFWA Grand Master Award in 2000. His most popular works are Needle and Mission of Gravity, but in truth, Clement is most well known for being a leader in the hard science fiction movement. Which brings us to Cycle of Fire. Cycle of Fire is an original story first published in 1957 by Ballantine Books. I own the 1970 Ballantine paperback. It is 185 pages and originally cost 75 cents. The cover is by Dean Ellis, and I'm a fan. It's cold, bleak, enigmatic. Two people, perhaps on a pilgrimage or journey of some sort, on a desolate, alien world, and the slight Dutch angle emphasizes the otherworldliness. The original hardcover, man, you'd be hard-pressed to find it under $150. For any paperback, depending on which one you want, they vary in price, but the most expensive being around $15. The reason I selected Cycle of Fire for my next review was, number one, because the front cover was so mysterious, and number two, the back cover was equally as mysterious. No synopsis, just praise and ads for more Hal. But I love the idea of reviewing something with absolutely zero information. I didn't know anything about it, so I went into this review ice cold. Did the gamble pay off? Well, let's see. Two beings are stranded on this planet. A young human pilot named Niles Kruger and an Abyormanite named Dar Lang An. Kruger has crash-landed his ship. I think he was on a survey mission. I don't remember. I think anyways. And Dar Lang An is on an important mission to carry these books, to transport these records of his people, of events, to a place called the Ice Ramparts, which are 3,000 miles away, when his glider crashes. Initially, the two cannot communicate.
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
But they must rely on each other to survive the harsh elements. Eventually, the two become friends as they journey across this abandoned world, which is not as empty as they originally thought. And as the truth of Dar's race becomes known, Kruger realizes he must risk it all in order to save his friend, even if it means saving his friend from himself. I wasn't even 5 minutes into the story when I went, oh, this is Enemy Mine. That infamous 80s flop, which I both love and hate, looking at you childhood-scarring sand monsters, was based on Barry B. Longyear's novella of the same name. But, man, there are some major similarities for more reasons than I'll list here for spoiler's sake. The novella came out in '79, and while there might be enough differences to slide by, I don't know, guys. There might be some inspired by happening here.
Is that cheating?
I could be wrong about this, but if you've read both, please let us know your thoughts in the comments. This story is told from the viewpoint of Dar, the alien. This was such a cool decision, and it really added to the alienness of everything. It wasn't an unreliable narrator, but rather an alien narrator. And as a result, we often weren't given information, because why would an alien feel the need to convey information that is common to aliens? It's common alien knowledge. This led to some clever reveals, and I wasn't expecting it, and I loved it.
For those people who say that my aliens are noticeably alien, not human, in psychology, I'm afraid I have a rather cynical answer. My secret for making a being seem non-human is to make him act rationally.
Hal Clement is the hard sci-fi guy. I put this in the good because I know a lot of people and a lot of you out there love hard science fiction, even calling yourself, some of you may call yourself a purist. I'm not. I'm not a purist, but these quotes on the back are spot on. Let me read them to you guys here. Clement is adept at making outlandish concepts acceptable and logical, and veteran SF purists will be well rewarded. If you like your sci-fi rock hard, then this book is for you.
Why is scientific realism so important in your work?
I'm not sure I'm a good enough psychoanalyst to answer that. I just feel that I have trouble writing something unless I can more or less convince myself that it might happen.
I really enjoyed the first half. I would even say I loved the first half. The adventure, the journey, the mystery involved. And now, the bad.
I don't know how that problem is solved.
And then this wonderful adventure hits a wall. The story grinds to a halt and then calcifies. And then petrifies, and then gets even harder. I would say the second half is dull, but it is beyond dull. It feels like it should be criminally dull. Hal Clement inexplicably shifts his focus from telling a story to scientifically examining and explaining this alien world for half of a freaking book. Look at these chapter titles: astronomy, diplomacy, geology, archaeology, astronomy, xenology, biology, sociology. Here's a quote from Hal Clement that I'm going to read to you guys. Writing a science fiction story is fun, not work. The fun lies in treating the whole thing as a game. The rules must be quite simple. They are, for the reader of a science fiction story, they consist of finding as many as possible of the author's statements or implications which conflict with the facts as science currently understands them. For the author, the rule is to make few as such slips as he possibly can. Clement was playing a game, and I wasn't. I was just reading a story. At least I thought I was. I think his focus was having fun for himself and not necessarily taking into account what the reader would want. Is the reader having fun reading this?
Everybody's going to go nuts.
Okay.
Including you guys.
Okay.
It's more fun than it sounds.
Okay.
If you guys have read this, let me know if you agree with me, but I can't shake the feeling like Clement was showing off. Like, you can be truly great. You can be really amazing at something. But nobody likes a showboat.
With this. She's under it. Uncle Elmore's socks. What did she do?
That problem.
Differing perceptions of time. Dar records time differently, but he still says a year. So he'll say, like, we trekked for nearly a year, and then we stayed here for a year, and then this process took nearly a year. We're another year down, another year closer to death. And then we learn afterwards that this whole ordeal took only a few months. Then why use the word year? Just make up an alien word. This was unnecessarily confusing. Honestly, at this point, when I realized this, I thought, this almost seems cruel.
Part of it was my contrary nature. I don't know how that problem is.
If you're like me, you've had teachers that were fun, and then you've had some that were dry as dust. I don't want to label Hal Clement as impersonal, but his writing style certainly is. Characterizations, struggles, arcs, drive, growth. Characterization might as well not even be in here. Now, I've read people say Clement was light on plot and characterization. I think that's putting it mildly, but I mean, that's him. Fine. That's your writing style. You do you. That's fine. There's a market for that. There's an audience for that. Great. But if you do that, if that's your style, then don't attempt an emotional pull at the end. It won't work. I could not care less. These were just names on a page.
I'm not the sort of craftsman who can come up with a personality totally different from my own and make it sound believable. Problem.
I found my eyes starting to glaze over, and I would skip ahead. A lot of booktubers do this. They'll skim their books. I don't. I seriously don't. I don't do it. I don't skim. My gosh, I was so bored out of my skull that I started skimming, and I would skim ahead a whole page. Then I would feel immense guilt and go back and read it. As a result, reading this took far longer for me than it normally would have, and the back half reads like a science textbook. That's like 2 grades above my level. Well, is there any fun? No, not really. Well, maybe one thing. there were these beings, these mysterious creatures called the Teachers. They were only referred to as the Teachers. Now, there were ones that lived in the ice ramparts and ones that lived in the hot tropical jungles near the volcanoes. The ice ones were called the Cold Teachers, and the ones in the tropics were called the Hot Teachers. Now, this led to some unintentionally funny lines about having to outsmart the hot teachers or endearing ourselves to the hot teachers or what would the hot teachers think. But honestly, I didn't write down any of the funny lines because I was too bored that I wasn't thinking straight. So what's the verdict? Thrift Shop. I can't properly convey to you how insanely boring the second half of this book was. There's obviously a market for diamond hard SF, but it isn't me. The thing is, I don't even mind hard science fiction as long as there's still a story with characters. Hal Clement's brain got in the way of enjoying this, which is a pity. Still, half of this is a decent book, and the cover is still pretty cool. But honestly, you'll be better off grabbing the book next to it. And that's my review of Cycle of Fire. I'd ask, but I already know what you're all going to say. You should have read Needle or Mission of Gravity. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you all next time with East of Danger.
There were rules, and that they ought to be followed.